Happy Acolyte Day. Yes, we are here on the day within the next couple hours. By the time that you see this video, by the time that it goes live, we are not but moments away from the penultimate episode, episode 7, gracing our lovely streaming service du jour, or wherever you're going to imbibe in said episode. Hopefully it's a little bit longer so that I could, create some sort of a plot, because Christ almighty, there's 2 episodes left. Who knows what the hell is even going on in this one? Very likely, it's just going to end up being a flashback episode, or at least heavily feature flashback as to why May disliked the Jedi or something like that. They still have to close that loop and then set up whatever the hell they're going to be doing in the finale. How they're going to square the circle of having a Sith running around right now that at least a few different Jedi know about, but the High Council ultimately doesn't know about in 100 years' time. It's just, how is that all going to work? Or is it just simply going to be introduction of light scissors and we're just going to forget everything that happened? I don't know what, Mayor Osha's just going to wake up once again at the beginning of episode 8 and realize that this is all a dream, and she's just going to go live happily ever after in a space U-Haul and wearing some space flannel with one of her female fellow mechanics. Like, is that what we're going to do? Who knows, man? But apparently not a lot of people are going to find out, because Star Wars The Acolyte, episode 6. Would have thought that episode would have got that big boost after the best lightsaber sequence since, The Phantom Menace, since Revenge of the Sith, or in some people's opinions, literally ever. It's like, I still get chill thinking about it. But it fell off. It fell off the top 10 streaming originals. That's sad. Leslye Headland's The Acolyte fell off a top 10 chart that tracks viewership data from various streaming originals. Noted by X-user, no it is. Oh, now it's known. Okay, data analytics company Illuminate released their streaming originals television charts for the week of June 29th through July 4th, the week of the 6th episode of The Acolyte premiered, and the show is nowhere to be seen on the chart. Yeah, of course, we can go ahead and take a look at said chart, and as you can see right here, Bear was the runaway winner of the week. Worst Roommate, Supercell, Love Island USA, Owing Manhattan, Bridgerton, The Boys, which earlier today did a video on that, America's Sweetheart, Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, what is this, 1983, and this is the only time that you can get a glimpse of those broads, My Lady Jane, and Presumed Innocent. Okay, no Star Wars. Hell, no Disney Plus joint on that list. The Hulu is tangentially affiliated, but nope, Netflix is definitely ruling the day. But it's unclear what kind of viewership The Acolyte brought in and whether or not the show saw a decline this week or not. The reason being, the Illuminate reports last week that The Acolyte only brought in 232.2 million minutes watched, meaning that even if it did hold steady, or even if it did bump up a little bit, that's just simply not good enough. It's not good enough at all to hang on. The Acolyte only brought in 210 million minutes watched in its premiere week, ballooned to 380.5 in its second week, then saw its minutes watched decline by nearly a third in the third week to 262 million. Well, yeah, you can see that in the second week because, well, there was 3 episodes out at that point in time, so everybody catching up here and how bad it was, and it's like, no, it can't actually be that bad. And then after seeing a couple of scenes going, wow, really was awful, okay? Or maybe it was just a bunch of reviewers going back and trying to get screen caps. Of course, it could be a multitude of things, but it had its point in time, and now the series is ending with a whimper and not a roar, because what's the biggest story heading into episode 7 day? Well, the Rotten Tomatoes scores for a large part of Monday were absent from the website. Now, at this point in time, okay, just to get ahead of the article, okay, like we got the Acolyte proper page, okay, 14%, that's still holding true after all of these days. Very, very strange. Got season 1, 14%. It's all still there. Everything's fine. It's rated fresh, all that crap. Everything is still the same. It's up right now. But very true, earlier today when I seen this story, for transparency's sake, I'm recording this, late on Monday, but for large portions of the day, yeah, the Rotten Tomatoes score was gone. So I'm just also wondering, because as you can see from the website that's right here, okay, from season 1, okay, you got 25,000 plus ratings. That's an awful lot of engagement, right? Well, unless, of course, you compare and contrast it to literally any other Star Wars project and you realize that nobody cares about this show, not even enough to come in and review bomb it. It's just accurate assessment of people who have watched this and went, wow, this is terrible, gave their thoughts on it. I'm just also wondering, because I'd imagine that Plus is doing a hell of a lot of heavy lifting. How many of those reviews ended up getting culled during the down period? I'm just wondering, man, okay? Because we're not going to know, and I'm sure there's probably some archivists that are out there that have been able to go back and check on the Wayback Machine, but frankly, it doesn't really much matter in the grand scheme of things, because honestly, Disney has had a funny relationship with Rotten Tomatoes for a very long time, getting everything locked up. Rise of the Skywalker locked up in 2019. The same with Captain Marvel. Every one of these Hollywood rags always pointing to, oh, the review bombing that's happening on Rotten Tomatoes, which outside of whenever you hear one of these rags talk about review sites, does anybody really go to these places in order to get an opinion on whether or not they should engage with a TV show or a movie or a piece of media in general? I don't really think so. Even somebody prior to making content like this, I never went to Rotten Tomatoes before in my life. The only time that I cared about what reviewers thought about something was in the video game space, and in the past 10 years, they've done well to expose themselves to be the worst and the most bad faith actors possible. So now, I just go to independent people who seem to hold the same values when it comes to media, take their opinion for it. And if they like something, I might check it out. If they hold something in high regard, I will go ahead and place my faith in them. If it is also something that looks to be up my alley. Then again, there might be some people, and these sites are popular, I guess, maybe, potentially. What's the numbers, okay? What are the numbers on places like IMDb, Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes? Like, people actually care if something gets a 6 or a 7 or a point something? Does it really much matter, that rating, after the age of, 14 or something like that? Because, yeah, there would have been a point in time where if I liked a game and if it only got like an 8.8 and it didn't get a 9, I might be perturbed for a few days. But now at this point in time, I don't really care what anybody has to say about something. If I like it, I like it, and if I don't, whatever, man. When searching for the Acolyte on Rotten Tomatoes, people no longer see the audience score, but instead only see the tomato meter score, which shows the critic's score. But that's not the case anymore. The audience score is still available on the website if you click the show's first season page, and it currently sits at an atrocious 14%. It is unclear why the show's audience score is not available when accessing the main page for the Acolyte. Yes, it also does not seem to be isolated to the Acolyte. Other Star Wars shows are also missing their audience scores, including Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor, Mandalorian, and Ahsoka. Interesting, the Book of Boba Fett still has its audience score. Well, that's the one that everybody agrees is shit, so that's interesting why the rest of those would be fine. Rotten Tomatoes has previously faced criticism back in 2019 when it deleted over 50,000 audience reviews for Captain Marvel. The company explained in the statement to The Hollywood Reporter, "We launched some changes to the movie pre-release functionality last week, which included not allowing users to leave a comment or review prior to the movie's release in theaters. However, we still invite users to vote if they want to see a movie prior to its release, and the vote total is displayed on the site." It's very interesting, right? Because this seems to be following a similar trajectory, because The Hollywood Reporter kind of plays into the story as to why the Acolyte is getting such special treatment, because they're the ones running the interviews with Leslye Headland, talking about why this series is so important, why she's literally breaking through glass ceilings, because she's going to be the first openly queer person to create a live action project set in a galaxy far, far away. It ensures that the LGBTQ plus community was well represented in her new gay Disney Plus series. Amanda Stenberg, who plays Osha and May. Just don't ask me to differentiate from the two characters, especially now that May has given herself a lightsaber haircut. Identifies as non-binary and gay. You have Leslye Headland pushing back on the notion that queer artists are capable of only created queer or queer-coded art, and then you watch what's going on in the Acolyte and you go, wow, yeah, that stereotype, you're not exactly doing much to break down the barriers and the boundaries as much as you're reinforcing them with titanium rods, or I guess in your case, cortosis rods. Journalists posited to her and Stenberg that the Acolyte is arguably the gayest Star Wars by a considerable margin. Perhaps the most queer adjacent story to that the point is the 24-year-old Anasaya twins, born to two moms. I'm just scrolling down this interview, pointing out how many times it's gay, queer-coded, queerness, why that's so important, and why It's so important to tell a diverse Star Wars story. And when I see a photograph of all the lead characters in the Acolyte, I just look at that and go, wow, that sure is diverse when you have a bunch of alphabet affiliated women. Very diverse that you have right there. I wonder why the media is running such staunch coverage for this crap. I wonder why you would end up taking down the audience score for a few hours the day before episode 7, your penultimate episode, comes out. It's all because you're trying to crystallize the message, the narrative that you want pushed. It's so funny, right? Because there's another show that's going on right now that has similar types of characters. They got black characters, they have gay characters, they have lesbians, they have everything under the yellow sun. You even have a little sprinkling of feminism, as misguided as it is in some cases, but that ended up really getting driven home that, oopsie daisy, you go ahead and preach that crap, you're going to get Tuttle lesson in a hurry, especially in the most recent episode. But House of the Dragon Season 2, it's very interesting how the audience score didn't have to disappear for that, how there's no calls of review bombing on this one, even though it checks off several of the other boxes that the Acolyte does. And wow, I don't know, maybe the critics who are also review bombing this, love bombing it in this case, them coming in at 90%. I would just also like to ask them in earnest, if you think, okay, if you said this was fresh and the Acolyte is fresh, how do you reconcile those two things? I don't know, maybe this is one of those shows that the bigots, they just missed wholesale, okay? They just weren't paying attention to the biggest show out there at this point in time. No, they were too busy focusing all of their attention on a niche unwatched show on a niche unwatched streaming service. Maybe perhaps that's the case, or maybe the Acolyte is just utter dog shit. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.